Welcome to the Counselling Armchair, hosted by the counselling team at RMIT University. This podcast aims to help you manage your university life so you can be at your best. We'll be sharing with you tips on student life here and ways to enhance your mental well-being.
Hi everyone, welcome to the first episode of the Counselling Armchair. We're so happy to be with you today. My name is Yvonne and I'm one of the psychologists on the team here. I'm joined by one of our senior psychologists, Liz, who's kindly agreed to take some time in her busy schedule to help me facilitate this podcast. Hi Liz, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks Yvonne. How are you going?
Oh, good, thanks. As we talked about this as a long time coming, bit of a dream come true and finally getting this happening fairly soon.
Yeah, we're pretty excited, aren't we? We're pretty excited to get this sort of off the ground and to create a podcast to help us sort of, reach RMIT students in a different way.
Exactly, because we do a fair bit of student support at the service, seeing people pre-pandemic face-to-face and now doing some telehealth. But here we thought, this might be another way to reach out to the students at RMIT just to give them some extra support or assistance with their well-being and mental health.
Absolutely.
So can you tell me a little bit what happens at our service?
Yeah, I think that's a great question to start with, Yvonne, because people might not know what we do. We're a team of psychologists. I think that's important to say. And we provide one-to-one counselling support to RMIT students. It is short-term support up to 6 sessions, but we do find that seems to be ample to assist people with most things that they come to us about. And so, as I mentioned, we're all psychologists, so you can be sure that what we offer is going to be confidential and ethical. And the good thing is that it's also free.
That's brilliant. Sounds great. And I guess I'm wondering, so what do we do and what do we help with?
Yeah, another great question, Yvonne. I think a better question is, what don't we help with? No, in all seriousness, look, I think we're here for our students to support them with whatever might be creating stress or difficulty in their lives. And, some of the common things that students come to talk to us about are things like any challenges they're having with study. For example, the old procrastination chestnut comes up a bit in our counselling sessions. And,
Yep.
I think we've all said, gosh, there isn't a student on earth, including us, who didn't struggle with that at times. But in addition to study-related issues, students also come to talk to us about personal issues that are probably impacting on their study. And it might be things like mental health struggles, like it's pretty common for students to experience depression or anxiety. Or sometimes it's about a specific situation that they're feeling distressed by. Maybe there's a decision that they need to make that they're having trouble making and they want to talk that through with someone. Maybe they're having some conflict with a friend, a family member or a partner. Or they might be having challenges with work and finances. So those are all things that people have come to talk to us about in counselling.
You're certainly right about what don't we cover. So from our experience of working with the student groups here, there certainly has been lots of different topics and or presentation that we have seen or we've come across. And we've done some webinars or workshops in the past. Well, we've now moved to webinars because of the pandemic and lockdown. Pre-pandemic or pre-COVID, there was some workshops being on offer. And I'm curious, since this year we're starting that up again and there's a wide range of topics that we probably cover or talk about. So can you tell us a little bit about what would be some of those workshop or webinar topics that we've got on offer so far?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to, Yvonne. And I think, there is a wide range of topics and we've just sort of come to the end of our offerings for first semester. And we'll certainly be repeating the topics again in second semester. So it's worth sort of mentioning what they are because there might be some that our listeners are interested in hearing more about. Some of the webinars have focused on common academic challenges. So we've covered time management, we've covered procrastination. Yes, we have. We've talked about managing group work challenges, which is another thing that we see students come to talk to us about a lot,
Definitely.
Challenges with, working in a group, which there's many group projects and assignments people have to do. And then the rest are on sort of helpful life skills, I guess, is a good way to describe it. So we've done webinars on building resilience, dealing with uncertainty, which, let's face it, in these kind of years, in these COVID years, these pandemic years, and even now there's still so much uncertainty, and it has a psychological toll. So that webinar covers, helpful tips about how to deal with that. We've had webinars on managing stress and anxiety, webinars on self-compassion. Another popular one has been CBT skills for daily life, and that's looking at, helpful ways of thinking that might make things easier rather than harder. We've had topics about sleep, improving sleep, and also mindfulness. And so we do sort of, advertise, what's the right word to put, on the RMIT website, and you'll see them popping up on sort of events pages and around the university. So do keep your eyes open, and I'm sure we'll have a link from our website that you can access what the topics are. So do keep your eyes open for webinars that are coming up in the future.
Oh, great. And I imagine that, I guess RMIT social media such as Instagram or, I guess some other form. I can't keep up with what's what these days, but,
TikTok is one, I don't know.
I think so. Sorry, I'm a bit dated. So
I know, me too,
not
don't worry.
Touch with that, but, we do also sort of have, notices up or ads up around or, what do you call them? Yeah, I guess notices up around these sorts of social media sites to advertise or notify students. So stay tuned to those sorts of media or social media sites. They are quite relevant, hopefully for the time of that academic year.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Keep your eyes open and you'll come across them, we promise.
We also, it sounds like, we predominantly see students one-on-one or individually, and, a traditional counselling service seems to offer that. Some places offer, the workshops, webinars like we do. And here we're venturing into the field of podcast or the world of podcasts, trying to reach out to some listeners. So I'm curious, I guess, why are we doing this?
Yes, that's a great question. Look, I think that, the best way to capture it is that we decided to start the podcast because there's a lot of us on the counselling team that actually love listening to podcasts, myself included. And as a podcast listener, I know that it's so great to be able to listen to podcast episodes while you're doing other things. And we know our students are so busy. We're all so busy. It's a great way to multitask. You can have us in your ears and you could be doing something else, going for a walk or doing shopping or something like that. So we thought it was an opportunity to, I guess, share some insights that we would normally share in the counselling room. So we want to give our listeners a little window to the sorts of, we call it psychoeducation is the technical term, I suppose, but just the things that we might share with our clients to, about things that they can do to help manage better with the problem that they're dealing with. And we thought, wouldn't it be great to share that on a bigger scale? We've certainly thought about that some people would like to access webinars, but some people may not, because that's usually at a specific day and time and they may not be available at that time. A podcast is an opportunity to share similar information, but that can be accessed at any time, whenever you're ready. Could be 3 a.m. We'll be asleep, but if you're not, you can still listen to us. So, that would be a great way for you to sort of access the information that might be helpful to you. The final thing is, I think we thought it would be nice for you, the listeners, to hear our voices, the counsellors of RMIT, so that if you did need to get some one-on-one support, you might feel a bit more comfortable because you've heard us speaking and you've heard that we're human, that we fumble our words sometimes and we have a bit of a laugh.
Absolutely.
But, it might make you feel more comfortable because it can be a scary prospect to think about going to talk to someone about a problem that you've been having.
I completely agree. It sounds like, we've had experiences where, clients have spoken about feeling a little bit nervous before they meet with us or the thought of booking that appointment. Hopefully this may give a bit of a personal touch or make us feel a little bit more personable, reachable or approachable. But the podcast idea sounds like, you've got us in the pocket, so to speak, and you can download it, you can listen to it. If that is your way of also taking in information, because some people don't enjoy reading or don't really enjoy sitting there watching something, and they prefer to have the information that they can take in audio, orally, I guess, and being able to kind of review that or play it back or play it at faster speed, so to speak.
True.
Different.
Yes, we talked about that the other day, didn't we? How sometimes it's easier to consume things at double the speed, like workshops or things, Yes, definitely. You could turn the podcast up to 1 or 2 times the speed. No, not 1, that's insane. That's the normal speed. But
1.5 times. Yeah.
1.5, that's the one I'm looking for.
Yeah. Well, we also noticed, though, that there's a lot of material, resources out there around mental health, around mental well-being, podcasts or web-based type material. I'm wondering, how will our podcast be different?
Yeah. And look, that's definitely true. There's heaps out there, heaps and heaps. You don't have to look very far on the internet before you trip over information. There's plenty of information online. There's plenty of mental health podcasts out there. I guess I would say that the point of difference for this podcast is that it's created by us, by members of our team, and we understand RMIT. We're happy to guide you in navigating RMIT processes, and talking about common personal and academic issues that might come up when you're trying to study. So in that way, it's a bit more specialised to this time and place, I suppose, and hopefully more relevant to you. And the other thing is, I think we've had this fabulous team of psychologists, really great bunch of psychologists. All of us are unique. We all have different strengths and interests and focuses, and we'd love to share with you our take on dealing with difficult issues. As I mentioned earlier, it might be something that's said in a therapy session, and that benefits that person who hears that, but this might be a way that more people can benefit from similar information, without necessarily having to attend an appointment. So, our listeners might click on an episode that's about a particular topic of concern to them, and they might hear some things that can really help them navigate that, and then they might not need to come for a counselling appointment, so we're hoping that it might help that way. And then what I said earlier, which is that it just might make people feel more comfortable with going ahead and making an appointment to talk things through with the counsellor. Once they hear us talk about things and it's normalised and they hear what we sound like, it might make people feel a bit more comfortable. We certainly want you to feel comfortable if you need the support to be able to access that support.
And it sounds like sometimes, certain counsellors, because of their training or background, they have some hot tips, that they do share one-on-one or in certain groups or webinars, and they're incidental information. And so the podcast might give us a chance to interview or speak with those counsellors for those hot tips.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Nice one.
Yeah. And I think that's the plan, isn't it? Is to sort of, interview members of our team in episodes, and, maybe it'll be on a particular topic, maybe it'll be a general getting to know you kind of interview. But we're hoping that all that incidental stuff that gets mentioned in a counselling session or in a webinar, that we can capture it in this format as well.
Lovely. And with that in mind, what would be some of the topics that we might cover during on our podcast?
Yeah. Look, I think we're absolutely going to interview our webinar presenters, and so all of those topics that I mentioned that we have webinars on, we will talk to the presenters of those webinars so that they can talk about what was discussed and what their hot tips are, what their hacks are, what the information is that's useful to share. But we'd also like to, I guess, focus on things like RMIT processes, things like special consideration maybe. That's something that students often need to access, when something unexpected and out of control happens, out of their control, and they might need to utilise that process. So we want to help you sort of navigate those processes. And then I think the final thing will just be like helpful tips, I guess, that sort of topic of helpful tips. And we might talk to our team about, what's your sort of go-to thing that you like to share with clients, and can we interview you about that? So I think that it's going to cover a whole range of life issues, basically, which will be good. And we're hoping that it will be fun, easy to listen to. We hope that it will feel like having a conversation with us rather than having to like read through information that's sort of a bit dry or hard to relate to.
Or being lectured at.
Or being lectured at, exactly.
I think students have had enough of lectures at certain points in their academic life.
Absolutely.
This all sounds very exciting because it is a different platform or medium to reach out and take some information or absorb information. So we do, hope that students and or listeners will find some use out of it or can relate to the information we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, fantastic. So I guess we'll stay tuned for the next episode, everyone. Yep. Thanks, Liz, for your time today.
My pleasure. And I'm sure we'll speak to each other again.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Liz.
No worries. Thanks, Yvonne.
Thanks for joining us today on the Counselling Armchair. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and learned a useful thing or two. Have a great week, and just remember that life can be amazing. See you next time.
Isn't life so amazing? Sometimes it can get crazy, but hey, that's okay. We've got another day to make mistakes and say sorry. There's no sense in our worry, 'cause all we can do is try our best to make